so I'll record. You don't need to put your cameras on if you don't want to, but you're welcome to if you'd like to. The recording will only be shared with the people on the workshop. It won't be put anywhere else. And if you've got any questions at any point throughout the workshop, please, you can unmute yourself and just ask me, or feel free to write it in the chat if you prefer as well. It's quite easy to keep my eye on that as well with a nice manageable group size, so I'll keep my eye there as well. So there might be a few others joining us as we go through, but I'll crack on anyway. So this is a lovely workshop. I haven't taught this one virtually before, although I've made loads of them and taught them lots face to face. It's just the most lovely apron that you make. Really, really good for gifts. So perfect for Christmas. Oh, hi Caroline, lovely to see you. And yeah, so really, really great thing to make just for Christmas as well. Once you've made one and you've kind of got your head around it, you'll find them quicker to make, like anything, quicker to make others, and then you can, brilliant for gifts for people. So you should all have in front of you some fabric, and then you'll also need pins and definitely a pair of scissors and a tape measure. And then if you'll find useful, a fabric pen or some tailor's chalk, or just a pen would do as well, because you're going to be cutting on the line of the pen, so it doesn't matter if it's not specifically a fabric pen. Oh, we've got somebody else joining. Hang on a sec. There we go. And then, of course, also you'll need a sewing machine as well. So I've set my sewing machine up with contrasting colour thread, but you might want contrasting colour thread, but you might want it to be the same colour, so that's up to you. So I'm going to be using a couple of different camera angles. I've got this front on camera to anything that I'm saying to you, and then I'll also have like an overhead camera that I'll move across to the sewing machine when I'm doing sewing stuff too. Okay, so it looks like we might have everybody for the session. So just to introduce myself properly, if you don't know me, my name is Kate, and I've been running the Makery for about 13 years in one guise or another, and just love running these workshops. So thank you so much for joining me. Right, as I say, I'm recording the session, so I will send it out to all of you after the session is finished. So if you can't keep up, I would urge you not, if you find yourself kind of rushing to try and keep up and everything, just relax and don't worry about it, and just kind of follow along and ask questions and everything, so that you can make in a nice and relaxed mode afterwards in your own time. If you can keep up, then perfect, go for it, that's brilliant. We should have enough time, I think it should be ample, but yeah, I just don't want anyone to get stressed, because that kind of defeats the object. So just don't worry, you will get the recording afterwards. It usually takes about half an hour to do all the processing, but as soon as I can send it to you, I will. I've also got the instructions kind of written out with direction within diagrams as well, so I'll also send those to everybody so that you've got those to refer to as well. Right, so just to say, I have pre-cut all of my fabric, but I've cut mine to kind of half the size, and that is because if it was to be full size, it would be much more tricky for me to actually show you and demonstrate, because I wouldn't be able to show the whole piece of fabric in one camera view. So I'll be doing exactly the same as you, but just using smaller pieces of fabric in front of me. Hopefully that makes sense. So I'm going to flip over to the other camera angle now. There we go. So you should have, so it was 1.5 meters of fabric cut down into 4 different rectangles. So firstly, this is the largest, this is the apron piece, and this is 1 meter by 104 centimeters. So that's the large piece there. This has been pre-washed. It's not been pre-ironed, as you can see, but I'm sure yours looks much neater than mine. And then we've got the strap pieces that go over your shoulders. There are 2 of those, and yours will be 75 centimeters by 12 centimeters. Mine are a bit shorter, as you can see. And then finally your pocket piece, and your pocket piece will be 35 centimeters by 29 centimeters. You need to make sure when they're all cut that you cut along with the grain of the fabric. So you'll see that means along in the same direction as the threads are going. If you try and cut it on the diagonal, it will all start to go a bit wonky when you start stitching things together. So just make sure that you're cutting with the grain of the fabric. Okay, so we're going to start off with the largest piece of fabric, which is this one here. And also in terms of fabric types, actually, I'll just quickly mention that. So I'm using this lovely 100% linen, which works beautifully for the aprons because it's super soft, but it's also quite strong. And it just falls really nicely. I've also made these out of denim a few times. They work really nicely with that. I've made them out of just calico, kind of as rough ones, and they actually look really lovely as well. You need to be super careful with shrinkage on calico. It shrinks a lot, so you must make sure that you pre-wash that at the same temperature that you'd wash it at normally. But although I'd recommend anything that you wear, you should wash the fabric beforehand, otherwise any shrinkage might mean that it doesn't fit you properly anymore afterwards. Okay, so the largest fabric piece I've got here. Now I really like making garments and things without using those massive big paper patterns that you have to try and lay down. I really like this method of kind of like self-drafting straight onto the fabric. That said, you can use the same method to draft the same pattern onto a piece of like parcel paper or something if you'd like to make lots of these rather than drafting straight onto the fabric. I just find it really, I find it brilliant actually, because for example, I made a, I'll go back to my other camera quickly. I made a pattern for scrubs when the pandemic started, and I made it a free pattern and just put it out on the internet. And I was really conscious that people might not have access to large printers and things, so I did the pattern just like this, and it was amazing. It got downloaded in like about 20,000 times in all different countries. So I had like visions of people in, you know, there was people in India, for example, who used it to make scrubs. So it's really great, just because you don't need, all you need is your fabric, a ruler and some scissors and a pencil, really. Okay, so right, we've got the largest piece of fabric here in front of us. What you need to do first of all is fold it in half like this. So it is folded in half so that this folded edge is the long edge, that's 104 centimeters long. And then now that this has been folded down here, the short edge is 50 centimeters long. So it's 104 down the long edge and 50 down the short edge. And what we're going to do with this folded in half is...
Can I ask a question? We've been
yeah, sure.
I'm rather carelessly, I think, using stripe material. It's got right on the wrong side. So which side should I be folding?
It doesn't matter actually at the moment.
It doesn't matter. Okay, jolly good.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yep. No, that's fine. If you like. But I'll tell you when it does. But at the moment, you're good. Okay, so we folded that in half.
Sorry,
and then,
Kate.
Yeah.
Sorry, Kate. One more question. I'm a little larger, so I've made my big square a little bigger.
Yeah.
So when I'm folding, am I looking to fold it on the? So I've kept the lengthways one, and I've made the. I took the dimensions down. Bear with.
So make sure that the length is 104.
So I make 104. The length should be 104. Thank you.
Yeah. And then this will
Fabulous.
be whatever, half of whatever the width was. Yeah.
Fab. Thank you.
No problem. Actually, that's a good point. Good. I'll raise it at this point. So if you, I found that this is a pretty good sort of standard length. I like it quite long. I'm not very tall, but if you wanted to, you'll get a much better idea once you've made this one if you wanted to make any more. But if you wanted to lengthen or shorten the pattern, obviously you can just make it a bit shorter than 104 down here as well if you wanted to change the length. But this is a pretty good place to start, so we'll see how we go. You should all be okay. Okay, so we've folded it in half, and then what we're going to do is we're going to mark a point here and here with our pen, or you could use some pins if you prefer. So I'm going to take the tape measure, and starting at the folded edge here, so this is the folded bit at the top, I'm going to measure down and I'm going to mark at 16 centimeters. There we go. Just do it with a pin first of all. So obviously that doesn't say 16 on mine because I'm doing half sizes, but on yours that will be 16 centimeters from the fold down to where that point is. And then along the bottom edge, if you measure from the bottom up. That is going to be, actually I might do it from the top down. I'm going to do it from the top down just in case anyone's made it slightly longer. I'll have to do my maths now. 28. Yes. So could you measure 28 centimeters down from the, so this is the same end. So I've got the fold here and that pin there, and that's the same. If you were to carry on down, start at that corner and measure down. So this is going to be the top of the apron ultimately, and that's going to be the bottom. So measure 28 centimeters down from the top to this point here. There we go. Hopefully that's made sense to everybody. So now I'm happy with that. Everything's good. So I'm going to mark those with a pen now. Might just keep the pins in just to make sure that none of the fabric starts to wander around at all. So it stays nice and, you know, all in the right place, the two layers on top of each other. And now what we're going to do is extend those lines very slightly. So if you take your tape measure again, and you want to take that where you've got that first mark here, it was better for you to see with a pin actually, wasn't it? I'm going to move that pin back because I think it's easier for you to see. There we go. In fact, I've got a really nice big pin here. There we go. So what we're going to do is carry on that line that we just drew and draw it 14 centimeters down. So I've got my tape measure on there. You might find it easier with a ruler if you've got one, but I'm going to keep drawing that line down. So that's going to be, that line will go down to 14 centimeters from the top edge, like that. Okay, so the line is 16 centimeters down from the top. That gap there measures 16, and this line measures 14 centimeters. And then for this line here, you want to do exactly the same, but going perpendicular to the last one, and you want that to be 19 centimeters going in this direction. There we go. There. So what we're starting to do is basically kind of cut off the top corner of the apron, and this is what's going to do. This will be the bib bit here, and this is the bit that goes kind of under our arms towards the back here, if you can kind of picture it. Now what we want to do is join those two lines up with a bit of a curve. I always just do it freehand, but if you, because it doesn't, it's fine, you know, like, see, but there we go, just kind of do that. But if you would prefer to have something curved to sit on there, you might want to find like a plate or something, but I think you'll all be fine. You don't need to worry about it too much, just to do like a bit of a freehand curve around there like that. Okay, so then we need to cut all the way around this line through both layers, and that will be our front main piece of our fabric apron cut out, and we can start doing some sewing. So I'm just going to pop some pins through both layers to make sure that nothing starts flying around, and you know, the two layers of fabric stay where we want them to, like that. Oh, we've just had someone else join. Hello, Debbie. And then what you can do is just cut through both layers to cut that corner of the fabric off. Hello, Debbie. Thank you for joining us. I'm recording the session, so don't worry that you've missed out on a little bit at the beginning, because you will get it sent to you afterwards as well. So don't worry too much. Okay, so I've now taken the pins out of the apron. If I open it up, you can see we've got the front of the apron piece. You can discard these 2 corner pieces. You can use them for something else, I'm sure. Okay, so we've got the front apron piece, which is the piece that we're going to start sewing with. Are we? Hang on a sec, let me just check my, yeah. Well, no, actually, let's start with the, we'll start with the straps actually. So now we've cut that piece ready to sew. I'm going to put that to one side. Just fold it up nicely. And so we're going to start with the actual, sewing with the sleeve piece, strap pieces. Okay, so if you take, Debbie, just so you know, I'm working with half-size pieces of fabric, just to make it a little bit easier so that you can see absolutely everything, because if I had the full-size pieces of fabric, I just couldn't show you the whole piece in one go. So don't worry if mine looks terribly different to yours, that's the reason why. Okay, so let's lay one fabric piece out in front of us, and what we want to do is fold these in so that we've got no raw edges showing. So if we start off by folding a 1.5 centimetre hem down one of the long edges, you can pin, and if you've got an iron and an ironing board handy, you can press that as well. Although you might find it easier to finger press. You might be okay to finger press this because it's just kind of like a nice small hem like that. There we go. I have actually got an iron with me today. So that's a 1.5 centimetre hem down the top edge, and I'm going to do the same down the bottom edge as well. So that's the long edges, pin in 1.5 centimetres towards the middle. And to your point earlier, I can't remember who asked me. Sorry, whoever's got stripy fabric, you want to be folding towards the wrong side of the fabric now. So that will be the wrong side. This will be the right side of fabric. It's going to look lovely stripy. You must all, that's the one thing it's not the one thing actually. There's lots of things that are not quite as nice not teaching face to face, but I just don't get to see anybody's makes. So I always love for you to share pictures with me if you can afterwards so that I can actually see what you've all been doing. Okay, so I've pinned that one. I'm going to do the same with the other one as well. It might take you a little bit longer because yours are obviously twice the size of mine, but I'll try and not go too fast so you can all keep up. It would be lovely if we can all make at the same pace, but like I say, if it starts to get, if I don't know, your sewing machine comes unthreaded and you whatever, you know, something happens, don't worry about it. You can always watch back afterwards. It's fine. I'd rather that than getting stressed out about it. Okay, so I've got my iron all heated up ready. I'm using my little Cricut Easy Press Mini actually. It's very cute because it's a bit more manageable again, size wise. Give it a quick press. So with sewing, in real life, I despise ironing, but when I'm sewing, I iron all the time because it just makes such a difference if you iron as you go. It just makes the difference between often a really professional looking piece and something that doesn't look quite as professional. So I highly recommend to iron as you go if you can. If you imagine trying to iron all the nooks and crannies and curves and corners into something that's finished rather than doing it as you go, it's so much easier this way, rather than trying to, you know, do it all at the end. And it also just means it's a bit easier to sew, I think, as well. If you have nice crisp folds, then it means that your stitching lines will also be a bit neater. I'm using glass headed pins. If you were to use plastic headed pins, then they would melt under the iron. So that's another good tip. Okay, so I've pressed those, and now I'm going to fold them in half. Wrong side together again. So I can remove those pins and then fold this over in half like this. And then we'll have all of the raw edges tucked in towards the wrong side of the fabric. What you could, the other way to do this would be to, with the right sides of the fabric facing, just fold it in half and stitch down one edge and turn it right side out. But I quite like, with the aprons, having this method where you can see the top stitching, because you have the top stitching all on the front of the apron, around the pocket and everything, and I just think it looks really nice and kind of fits with the look of the apron. But if you wanted to do it that other way and then pull the kind of tube of the straps the right side out, if that makes sense, you could certainly do it that way if you prefer. Be fine. I suppose you could do that and then top stitch as well, but I think this method would be a bit quicker than that. Okay, so now I'm pinning again with that's 4 layers now, because we've got folded over and then folded in half. And I'm just going to give them another quick press to make sure that it's nice and neat. And then we can do our first bit of sewing. There we go. One. See, look at the difference. It looks so much nicer, doesn't it? Once it's been ironed like that. And 2. There we go. Okay, so the next job is to stitch down. I'll take this out of the way because it's the same colour. The next job is to stitch down the long edges of the straps on this open edge. So stitch about 1/2 centimetre in from the edge, just with a straight stitch all the way down. Make sure you do a little bit of reverse at the beginning and a little bit of reverse at the end. So I'm going to bring my sewing machine across. Hopefully I'll be able to get this good angle again when I go back to the overhead shot. It's quite a good one, isn't it? I'm going to see all my mess now. Okay, now it's a bit dark because if I turn on my light from my sewing machine, it flickers and it's not very nice for you. So I'm keeping my sewing machine light off, but hopefully you can see. Oops, you can see that. Okay, there we go. So I'm going to sew down the long edges here. Actually, what you could do is line up the right hand side of your presser foot with that right hand folded open edge of your, sorry, the right hand, not folded, that's the folded one, the right hand open edge with the seam allowances of your straps. So set straight stitch, do a couple of stitches at the beginning, check we're all plugged in, yep. And then sew all the way down to the bottom. Oops, I think that angle's okay for you. There we go. There we go. That's good. Actually, a note on pin direction. So I always put my pins in this direction, so the point is facing away from me, so that as I sew I can just pull them out. You'll see some people, and it's kind of habit as well really, but a lot of people like to pin this way and then just stitch over their pins, which is absolutely fine. That's definitely like a technique. I just don't like to do that because sometimes the needle can hit the pin, especially if you're going around a corner and it's a bit fiddly. I just find that my preferred method is to go with the pin point facing away from you so that you can take the pins out as you go. Okay, I did a little bit of reverse at the bottom as well, and now I'm going to go do exactly the same thing on the other one. There we go. So nice to think of people all, even though we're not all together, just all beavering away in our own homes, making something. It's so nice. Okay, so go back up to this angle again. Well, I'm never going to get it as good, am I? I'll try my best. Okay, so there we go. We've got the two straps. So I always like to neaten as I go as well. So as it's, again, it's just much easier to do it as you go rather than trying to do it at the end, chopping off the long ends of the thread. There we go. I usually just throw them on the floor and then hoover them up later. Okay, so that's the straps done. So I'll just, could you give me an indication of if you are at the same point or if I need to hang on for a moment? How are you all doing? Any of you who are sewing along? Got a good thumbs up from Marguerite. Perfect. Thank you. Good here in Switzerland.
I'm a bit behind with stripes, but don't worry. I've still got to sew mine.
Okay. Shall I crack on? If you're just behind, I'll hold on. Oh, okay. I'll move on.
Yeah, sorry. Well, I'm wandering around to the iron as well. Sorry, so it's all a bit.
Oh, well, okay, I'll carry on, but it's not. Yeah, you should be able to follow it. I think I'll just keep talking. So we've got those straps ready now to add onto the apron, so you can just pop those to one side. So the next thing we're going to need is the apron piece again. Oh, actually, you know what? Whilst I'm at it, I'm going to mention this because this is my. You know, you can get all sorts of gadgets and gizmos for any craft. And generally I'm like, oh, that's just a waste of money. This is my absolute favorite gadget for sewing. I don't know if any of you have already got one. It's just a magnetic pin cushion, but they're absolutely brilliant. So if anyone's looking for a stocking filler from somebody, I'd highly recommend it. They're so great. You can just kind of like waft it over the table or over the floor and it just picks all of your pins up. They're absolutely great. So that might have been enough time to catch up. So got one caught my jumper. Right, so now you'll need your large apron piece. Let me try and get the whole bit. There we go. So we're going to open that piece up. And this time it is important which way round it is. So we're going to, the first hem we're going to do is the bottom, oh, it's hard to get it the right way, the bottom hem, but we want to do it. So this is the top up here, this is the top of the apron bit, and this is the bottom bit here, the bit at the opposite end to the bib. So top and then bottom along here. So what we want to do is fold this up towards the wrong side of the fabric. So this facing upwards is the wrong side of the fabric, if it matters to you. It doesn't actually matter on this one, but it might do on yours. And we're going to fold it up with a double 1.5 centimetre hem. So if I'm doing a long piece like this, and what I tend to do is always measure, rather than folding, like trying to measure it and 1.5 centimetres and then folding up, do the fold first and then measure the fold and check that the fold is 1.5 centimetres. It doesn't need to be exactly 1.5 centimetres, but just make sure that whatever it is here, it is the same all the way along. So it may as well be 1.5. So I'll check that. That's 1.5 centimetres there. So I'm going to pop a pin in. And then what I do is also check at the other side and do 1.5 centimetres like that. And then you might want, because yours is larger, you might want to do another one in the middle, but then I just kind of like pull it nice and tight like this. And then it means that the fabric just finds the natural 1.5 centimetre point all the way along the fold. I think you'll probably need to do another one in the middle because yours is longer than mine, but that's just, rather than measuring and pinning all the way along, you actually only really need to do about 3, and then you can just kind of stretch it and make sure that it's all nice and you know, even. And then we want to do a double 1.5 centimeters. So what you can do is just take the pin out, but hold it and fold over again, like that. Once, do the one at the other end, take the pin out, fold it again. And this time, of course, you can use that first fold just to measure the 1.5 because you've already done that. And then we'll do the same again in the middle. And it should be nice and even. There we go. Lovely. Okay, so I'll pop a couple of extra pins in between, and I'm going to press it again, just to make sure we're nice and neat. Oh, we've got somebody else coming. Ooh. Okay, so get my iron out. I'm just going to press along that bottom. Oh, this one's going to be so cute. I have to give it to my little niece for maybe I'll cricket her name on the front or put Star Baker or something and give it to her for Christmas. It's going to be so sweet. Okay, so then I'm going to press that hem along the bottom, and then what we need to do is just stitch that bottom hem in place with a 0.5 centimeter seam allowance. But the seam allowance needs to be kind of the opposite way round. So you want to measure in from the top downwards. So actually, if you're measuring from the bottom, it's a 1 centimeter seam allowance. But what I tend to do is pop it underneath my presser foot. I think unless anybody really wants me to, I might just keep the camera angle like this rather than moving it every time to my sewing machine, because it's a bit tricky to get it right each time. But what I'll do is I'll put the left hand side of the presser foot lined up with the inner top fold of this hem, so that your stitching is just down from the top of that inner fold there, if that makes sense. Oh, do you know what I've done? Silly old me. I never do that wrong. I've well, I do clearly because I just have, but I put my pins in the wrong way around. So I always, as I said, put the pins in so that the point is facing away from me. So you want bulk of the fabric to the left and then points facing away from you on the pins. And then that means that as you stitch down, you can pull the pins out as you go, nice and easily without anything getting in the way. Okay, so I'm going to just knit back over to the sewing machine and then stitch down this fold here. Yeah, I think I'm going to leave my camera there if that's okay with everybody. Just shout if you want to have the close-up again, but I actually think this is better. Okay, I'm going to do a little bit of reverse at the beginning and the end again. So that way, I think. So now we can, just like before, snip off those long ends, tails of thread so that they don't get in the way. It's always best to do it as you go. So this is still the wrong side of the fabric facing up, and this is the right side of the fabric here. So the right side has got the nice neat side of the hem, and the wrong side has got the fold, the underside of the hem on it. Okay, so next up, clear some space again. We're going to do the two side seams. Sorry, it's funny getting everything's in a mirror image, so it's hard to get it all correct. So that is these two seams down here. So again, exactly the same as before. You want to fold towards the wrong side, and on each side, just down the straight edges here, we're going to do a double 1.5 centimeter hem again. So I'm going to do this one first. Fold it once. I'll just double check my measurement. Lovely. I'll put one pin in here. And then we can repeat the same process that we did before. So I'm going to fold, oops, up this end. There we go. Put a pin in. And then if I were you, I'd do another one in the middle, but this is quite short, so I can just pull it nice and flat, and it finds its own way. There we go. And then, do you know what? I might just not press at this point. I'm going to go straight into the second fold and then just give it one press after that. So there we go. Oh, the church bells have just started ringing in the village. You probably can't hear them. Sounds very nice. Okay. There we go. And pop a couple more pins in now that we're all done. So that's one of the side seams done. Perfect. Well, press that in a minute. But first I'll just repeat that exact process on the other side seam. I don't think it's going to take all the time I allocated. We'll see how we go. We could always have a bit of time at the end for any questions that anyone might have as well. Okay. Lovely. So how is it in Switzerland, Caroline? All good there? She's busy. Oh, all good, good. I had a friend who as well, one of my the girls who works for me, who's meant to be coming to Switzerland next weekend for a weekend away, but she's had to cancel because all these new quarantine laws and everything that have come in. I'll just check I've not missed any. Oh, Anne-Marie, your fabric never arrives, so you're just watching. Oh, no worries. Hopefully, well, you'll still have to show me once you've actually made it. That would be nice to see. Okay, so I've pinned both sides now. So I'm just going to bring my iron back over and press both of those sides. This is so little and cute. Oh, love it. It'll be too small for my girls. I have actually made a pattern. I'll share that with you as well, actually. I've made a pattern to make a child's version of the apron. This is 2 Diddy, the half size one, but the child's size one. So my girls are 9 and 12, and it fits both of them really nicely. So I'll share that, the instructions to make the pattern for that size as well, because it's really cute. Right, one done. Just turn it over and I'm going to press the other side. May as well give it a bit of a press because it's linen. It takes a bit more doing than some other fabrics. There we go. Okay, so I pressed those 2 side hems. So what we need to do now is stitch those down. So exactly the same as before, you can just line up the inside, the left-hand side of the presser foot with the inner fold on the hem, or if you prefer, you can stitch with a 1 centimetre seam allowance, whichever you prefer is fine. Okay. So again, as per usual, I am stitching with a bit of reverse at the beginning and at the end, just to hold all my stitches in place. Just be careful, especially if you've got really thick fabric, you're going through a lot of layers when you get to the very corner. So you might find it easier to use the balance wheel on your sewing machine to go through all those layers. It depends what kind of machine you've got. There we go. And then same on the other side seam. Brilliant. Okay. That is stitched. So it's starting to all come together nicely. Hopefully you can start to see the apron emerging from your flat pieces of fabric that you started with. So I'm just trimming off all those ends of cotton to keep it nice and neat as we go, so they don't get caught up in any other lines of stitching. There we go. So I'm just gonna pause a moment. Maybe if you could give me a thumbs up when you're done, and I can kind of gauge where everybody's up to. Oh, Caroline, you're doing well. You're all done. Oh. I'm going to have to take my jumper off. I've had the heater on in here all afternoon getting it ready. I can't believe it's actually a bit too warm. I thought it would be freezing. Great, so just give me a thumbs up when you're ready. I'll hang on for a little bit longer. I want to, the next bit is a little bit, it's not fiddly, but it's just a bit more of a different, it's a bit of a different technique. So I just want to make sure you're all with me when I'm doing that one. Funny look, you can see my, change back to this one for a mo. You can't see my nose and the top of my head. Okay, right. I'm going to start doing the next bit because a few of you have put thumbs up now. Hopefully that's okay. Okay, so what we're going to do next is there we go. We're going to sew the curves, but sometimes when you sew curves on fabric, it can really pucker and it can be really hard to get a nice kind of neat line of stitching. So I've got a little technique that I'm going to share with you, which is what we're going to do to sew the curves today. So the first thing you need to do is, it feels slightly alien to do it, but just bear with me, but we're just going to sew a line of stitching through the single layer of fabric, 1 centimetre from the edge all the way around that curve and all the way around that curve. So you don't need to pin anything, you don't need to prepare anything, we just need to take this piece of fabric over to the sewing machine and stitch a line 1 centimetre in all the way around that curve. You don't need to do reverse at the beginning and the end, because this is just kind of to help you when you're actually folding and stitching the actual hem around here. So you don't need to do securing of the threads or anything. So I'm just going to pop my fabric under, line the raw edge up with the 1 centimetre line on my plate here, and just stitch 1 centimetre in all the way around that curve. First one done. And then I'm going to do the same on the other curved edge. There we go. And then, as per usual, just trim off the tails of your thread. So I think you can see it's just literally got one line of stitching through the fabric, as you can see, like that. And so what that's going, this is just a really, really great tip if you're doing, especially if you're doing a large curved edge, or if you're doing a skirt which has got the whole of the bottom, you know, say you're doing a circle skirt or something like that, anything which is curved, you'll find this technique really, really helpful for making sure that your stitch line is much, much neater than it would be otherwise. And what we're going to do is use that stitch line to help us with the fold of the fabric. And that we're going to fold a double 1 centimetre hem along these two curves towards the wrong side of the fabric. This only needs to be a 1 centimetre hem because this is, we want to kind of just make it as easy as we can. We don't want this to be too bulky because it's going to kind of go around your body and under your arms. So this can be a smaller hem than the bottom and the sides. So I'm going to start here, fold it on that line of stitching that we've done and fold it again. So we've got a double 1 centimetre hem there at the end, and I'll just pop a pin in to hold it in place. And then I'm going to do, and then I'll start working my way around the middle. Double 1 centimetres at the top. I'll do one here in the middle, pop a pin in, and you should find, I'm going to do another one here, that it sits a bit more flat. You might need to position that pin at the end in a minute. Oh, look, my magnetic pin cushion just swiped that pin out of my hand. Another one there. I'll do the pin at the end again. I'm going to reposition that pin at the end because it's kind of pulling the inner edge slightly towards the center, which is good. We want it to do that. There's two good things about that. So firstly, it means that this will be a bit neater, and secondly, it means that that edge won't poke out the side of our apron. So that's all good. And I'll take this one out just to, in case it wants to do the same up here. And fold on that 1 centimetre line. There we go. I'm using more pins than I did on the straight hems. That's the first one done. If I turn my iron on, ironing at this point will make all the difference and will make it sit nice and flat. Because we're going around curved edges, there is enough fabric there, but at the moment it's kind of puckering very slightly. But because it's on the curve, it's kind of on the bias, it will stretch out and it will be absolutely fine. So I'm going to press this one now just to show you, but you can carry on with your pinning if you're at that stage. So I'll just press it now. Oh, I love this little easy press for little sewing jobs like this. It's so handy. I used to have a, when we taught workshops in John Lewis in person, sewing workshops like this, we'd do this one actually. We used to have these little mini irons, travel irons from Prim. And they were so popular with everybody passing by. There we go. Right. So I've pressed that now. So once I've sewn that, that'll be nice and flat. I'm going to do the same on the other side. It's still looking a little bit puckered on here, but it will be fine, believe me. I'll do the same on this side. We'll start in the middle this time. I think that'll be better. We'll start here and double 1 centimetre hem and pin, and then work my way out again. Exactly the same techniques on the other one. There we go. It's probably the fiddliest bit, I think, to the whole apron. Otherwise, it's pretty straightforward. It's nice to have slightly different techniques though, I think. Okay, so a couple more pins, one in there and one in the top. Oh, this is just going to be so adorable. Look at it. So I'll turn this side over and press this one as well. So of all of the stages, I would say don't skip on the pressing of this bit here, because it will definitely make it look more professional if you can press as you go on these curved edges. There we go. Super. Okay. And then I'm sure you've guessed the next stage, and that is to stitch these hems in place. So I'm going to sew down here, and I'm just going to make sure that my stitching is just in from that outside edge. So it's just going to be just less than a 1 centimetre seam allowance, just in from here. I'll just take out a couple of the pins actually. Okay. gone a bit off pieced. Quite like making little mistakes when I'm doing workshops every now and then, though, because it shows you that we're all human. It doesn't matter. I'm just not sitting very straight at my machine, so there we go. And remember to do a little bit of oh, stop. At this point, I forgot an important step. Hopefully you haven't. Hopefully I'm in the lead. If I'm not, it's not the end of the world. But I've stopped at exactly the right point. So I'm going to bring my apron out. I was getting a bit carried away. Bring my apron out from under my machine. There we go. Me talking about making errors. I made a much bigger one. So I've stopped sewing before the end, but actually what I want you to do is not sew yet. So let's pop the pins in and pretend that I've not stitched yet. If you have stitched a bit, that's fine. If you have stitched all the way down to the end, maybe unpick the last 10 centimeters. Terribly sorry if that's happened. I don't reckon it has, unless you're super speedy. Okay, so what we want to do is actually insert the straps at this point. So I'm going to take one of the straps, and we've got this. Say we've got this here folded and pinned. Lovely. Oh, nothing to see here. No stitching has happened whatsoever. It's all just pinned. So I'm going to take one of the straps, and I'm going to tuck it. I'm going to take that end pin out here, and I'm going to tuck that strap underneath, just inside that fold of the apron, like that. And then I'm going to pop the pin back in again, like so. I'll do the same on the other side so you can follow along again. So I've got my strap here, and then the bottom pin. So this is the top of the bib, and this is the bit that goes under your arm. Here's the side seam. So the last pin next to the side seam, I'm going to remove that, and then take one of the straps, take the other strap, not the other end of the one you've just done, but a fresh strap, and tuck it underneath the fold of that curved hem at the very end, and then pop the pin back in again, like that. And then if you can, it depends slightly. So I'm okay with this linen because it's not too thick. It depends on how thick your fabric is. What I'd like you to do is fold the apron strap back on itself, so it's now going upwards, and remove the pin and put it through again. So now you've got a lot of layers here. Most domestic machines would be fine to handle that. If they're not, what you'll do is just keep it like this, and then afterwards we'll fold it up, and then ultimately you could just tack a few hand stitches in place to make sure that that's facing in that direction. So if your fabric's super thick, or you don't think your machine's up to it, you're going to stitch along here with the strap going downwards. If you think your machine's up to it, or your fabric's not mega thick, you can fold the strap back up again so that it's facing, so it's going up towards the same direction as the bib, like that. And we're going to stitch through all of those layers. There's a lot of layers, but I've got an old Janome pretty low range one here that I'm using. I think it was like about less than £200, £180 or something. It was the ones we use for the workshops in John Lewis, and that handles it fine. What you might want to do to help it is not stitch over all of these layers with the pedal, but actually just use the balance wheel instead. Or if you're worried, like I say, just have it facing down, stitch all the way through the other layers, and then we'll fold it up. You can do it at the end, fold it up, and then hand tack that in place. Okay, so now I'm going to stitch down these curves and stitch in just close to that inside edge of the fold, and make sure that you catch the apron strap in place. I can rectify that problem I had before as well now. Yours will all be much neater than mine one, I'm sure. Here we go. So I'm actually also going to use I'm going to take the pin out because that adds extra bulk that we don't want. And I'm actually also going to use I'm going to stitch right up to where all these layers are. And then I'm going to use the balance wheel just to make sure that my machine is happy. Yeah, we're good. There we go. And then exactly the same on the other side, because I've done a couple of lines of stitching. It looks a bit tatty. Oh well, I'm sure my 3-year-old niece won't mind too much. Or I could cover it with some pom-pom trim or something, couldn't I? That would look nice. I might do that. Right, I'm cutting off all of the ends of the thread as I go, just so that we stay as neat as possible. Lovely. And then I'm going to do the same down the other curved edge. So pop it underneath. I'll take that pin out now so that it's a bit less bulk. And because I'm starting at the bulky edge, I'm going to really help it along manually with the balance wheel. Otherwise, you could find, if you don't, that there's quite a high chance that the machine will start sewing in one place and it won't move on. So almost, I don't know if you noticed then, but actually after I'd done a couple of stitches, I lifted up the presser foot and just manually moved the fabric through slightly, just to help it past all of these thick layers of fabric. And bit of reverse, and then we're good to go. Get that strap out of the way. Don't want to stitch through that where we're not supposed to. Brilliant. Okay. How are you all doing? Any questions? Any thumbs ups? Anything at all? You can always ask. Okay, great. Oh, it's really looking like an apron now, like it should. So there's only a couple of steps left. They are to do the top of the bib bit and attach the straps, and then to do the pocket. How fun. Oh, it's so much easier showing you with this smaller one. Would have been quite a struggle, I think, to try and show you the other one. I'm just going to give mine another quick press whilst I'm waiting for you to catch up. Got far too many lines of stitching down there, but just, you know, just ignore. I'm sure yours looks great. have to send you all a photograph of the of my niece wearing this little mini one once I've actually given it to her. Okay, so if you're making along, could you give me an indication of whether you're at the same point or not? That'd be really handy. Great, thank you, Caroline. Thank you, Kate.
I'm still stitching my first, whatever you want to call it, armhole.
Oh, okay, cool, that's fine. So you're not far behind. I'll hang on a mo. Who was that? Who said that? I never know. Is that Jane?
No, it's Andrea with the stripes, which are a bit of a, they're an aid in a trauma in both ways. Because I'm trying, because when you're doing the side, you're trying to get them to line up and stuff. So.
Yeah. Are they printed stripes or are they woven stripes?
They're printed.
Yeah, so woven is printed as sometimes a bit of a bind because you never quite know if they've printed exactly on the grain of the fabric.
Well, I don't think that, well, I washed, it's calico and I washed it, so it's all gone a bit wonky as well, which isn't helpful.
Sure, it will look fine. I'll bet I'll hang on a mo so you can catch up.
And like you, I'm an iron, I don't like ironing, but the minute I start sewing.
Yeah, same. I know. My mum came to shoot. I had an event that I was working last weekend away, like quite a long way away from home. So I had to be away for a couple of nights. My husband's away at the moment for like a month. And so my mum came to look after the children and the dog last weekend and the rabbits. And she got the iron out and the children were like, what are you doing? Like she didn't really ever see me with the iron. They didn't even know where it was. She had to hunt around for it. It's quite funny. Yeah, but when I'm making, I use it all the time. I don't know. I'm sure we all look reasonably well turned out most of the time.
I do iron, but I don't like it. But the minute I start sewing, I get really neurotic about it. I have to press everything every 5 minutes.
I'm like that as well. It just makes such a difference though. I'm not one of those sorry.
It always looks so much better when you do, doesn't it? Oh.
Yeah, it really does. Makes a massive difference. I'm not one of those you know, my mum like even irons her bed linen, and I know that feels lovely to get into a bed with freshly ironed bed linen.
My mother ironed towels, would you believe?
Towels? Oh no.
And underwear.
Oh, it's cute. I bet it felt lovely.
I'm not sure about the towels. Oh, I need one of your magnetic pin cushions things.
It is really good. Yeah. There's I'll put a link to them on the email. There's a couple of really good ones that you can get, I think. Just really good.
I've got a friend who sews. I might get her one for Christmas. It's a bit practical though, doesn't it?
Yeah, there's another one which is much prettier than this. I'll show you. A nice little set with pins. It's polka dot.
Oh, that's very
it's
pretty.
A nicer one. Yeah, it's also prim, so it's really good, and it comes with glass-headed pins as well. I'll send you some links to them because there's so many gizmos and gadgets, and I just think, oh, you know, whatever. But that one I love it. You can just kind of sweep it over the floor and it will just suck up anything that you've dropped that you don't realize you've dropped.
I've caught up, or give or take a bit of pressing.
Yay.
Anybody else? I seem to do all the talking.
That's right. Okay, so next step is, let me change my angle again. Yours will look, this is quite narrow. I probably should have made this bit a little bit wider and not just halved it, but hey ho, you'll get, you know what I'm doing because it's the same, it's all the same kind of shape and everything. So we've got wrong side facing up here. So that's your right side down here. This is the wrong side facing up. What we need to do is fold the top hem down. We want to fold quite a big fold. So with yours is going to be 3 centimeters and then 4 centimeters. So if you fold it over and measure that as 3 centimeters and then fold it over again and measure as 4 centimeters. I'm going to do slightly smaller because mine is it's not geared up for that because I've halved everything. I need to kind of halve that as well. So I'm going to, where are my pins gone? Yeah, we'll do. So pin that and then press it, but I don't want you to stitch it at this point because we're going to catch in the other ends of the straps. So I'm just pressing that down. So 3 and then 4 centimeters with that top hem. And then this bit's really important to get right. So I'll hang on just a mo, just so that you've all done that pinning, and I'll just double check mine's even actually. I was a bit slapdash then, wasn't I? Yeah, that's good. Okay. So what we want to do is, I've got the whole of the apron laid out here, so you should be able to see everything. Move everything else out of the way so it's nice and clear. And what we want to do is take the right hand strap, and if you imagine, what it's going to do is it's going to join the top, looking at it now, the top left hand side of the top of that bib, and it will go like that. But what we're going to do again is just get rid of all of these raw edges of that fabric and just tuck it under and then back up on itself again, and then catch it in with a pin like that. Again, if you're worried about your machine or you've got super thick fabric, actually, yeah, no, if you've got super thick fabric, if you have got really thick fabric, tuck it under like that and stitch. Actually, we could do that anyway. Just thinking, might be better. Yes. Do you know what? That's what we're going to do. So I've got my right hand strap here. It's going to go up underneath the left hand side. So take the pin out from the top fold of the bib and tuck your strap underneath there. And this, there's no kink, there's no folds or kinks or curves or anything like that. This, if it's obviously going around a corner, so it's kind of curved a little bit, but it's completely flat. There's no twists in it, is what I want to say. And then I'm going to take my left hand strap, and that's going to go underneath the right hand side. So I'll take that pin out, tuck it underneath, and then put the pin back in again, like that. Okay, so does that make sense to everybody? Is that, so I've got, I try and make it so that you can see there's no, there, that's nice and clear, isn't it? So I've just folded these two corners down here so that you can see that's the front, that's the right side of the apron. This is the wrong side. There's no twists or anything, and the apron straps go, they cross over each other, and then they tuck underneath that back, that fold on the back of the top of the bib of the apron. And then what we want to do is sew along here, and then but sew along the bottom of the fold. So just in from that inner folded edge. And what we'll do then is catch the apron straps in as we go. So we want to do a bit of reverse at the beginning and a bit of reverse at the end. Is that clear to everybody?
Yeah, I can't find thumbs up, but it is.
Oh, good. Great. Okay, so I'm going to stitch that. Okay, so stitch that down, reversed at the beginning and at the end. So I'm just going to snip off all of my bits of thread again. Then, oh, it's good, isn't it? This is definitely killing two birds with one stone, making a Christmas present as I'm teaching a workshop. So then what we're going to do, I'll need to change this very slightly on your handout that I'll email you. I might not have a chance to change it because I'll email it to you this evening, but I'll change it in the next few days and then send it to you again. But we're going to fold this over now. At this point, take the straps. So I'll take the one on the right hand side first. I'm going to fold it up so that it's facing in the right direction, because obviously if you imagine wearing the apron, you want the straps to go upwards to go over around your neck, and then do the same with the left hand strap. Fold it upwards. Make sure that as you fold it, you keep the seam allowance of this hem here nice and flat as well, and then just place a pin in. And then if I just turn this over, you can probably do this line of stitching on this side actually. Yeah, I suggest we do. So I'm going to change those pins so that they're on the top edge rather than underneath. So this is now the right hand side of the apron. This is the top. And what we're going to do is a second line of stitching across the top of the bib, but it will be along the top edge. So just probably half a centimetre in, maybe a centimetre on yours. Yeah, about a centimetre in from the top fold, starting right at this end and ending right at this end. And what that will do is hold the straps up in this upward position so that they're facing the right way. There's a little tip actually. If you've got loads of layers of material and you're trying to put them under your sewing machine, you know the I'll lift that up a little bit more. That's better. As you lift and lower your presser foot here. This is the lever that does that. If you keep pushing it, it should go even further up. So if you've got really thick layers of fabric to go under your presser foot, you get a little bit more height by just keeping on pushing it even further up, just in case you didn't know that. And it's helpful for this step. Now you do. There we go. Right, make sure as well, because you've got all these straps kind of crossing over and going in different directions. So just double check that you've got a nice clear path along your line of stitching before you go, and there's nothing there that shouldn't be there. Because there's lots of layers, I'm going to start off again manually just by doing the balance wheel with my right hand. Once I'm happy, we can start sewing with the pedal. There we go, a little bit of reverse at the end as well. And then we actually now have, would you believe, a finished apron. All that's left is to add the pocket, which is brilliant. So, whoops, get rid of all of these bits. Oh, I'd love to see them all. You must, if anyone's on social media, you must tag me if you put a picture online. I'd love to see them, or just send me a picture if you would prefer. I'd love to see. Okay, so this is an apron. How brilliant is that? I mean, look. Oh, it's so lovely and little and cute. So obviously you kind of wear it like this, put your head through there. So that's all, that's done, the apron. But what we need to do is add the pocket. Oh, sorry, I love it. The feeling of making something from just a flat piece of fabric is so satisfying. It makes me so happy. Okay, so we've done that. So what's left to do is the pocket. So I'm going to get my fabric piece, and this is really straightforward. You don't need me for this bit particularly, but I will. Let's all do it now anyway. I'll just iron it first. It's a bit creased. I think she will. I'm going to put pom-pom trim on it actually, Caroline, because I accidentally went a bit off pieced here, so I've got 2 lines of stitching. I think that's the perfect excuse to put pom-pom trim all around there for her, maybe in neon pink or something, and then I'll do her name, I think, on here in glittery gold vinyl, or maybe embroidery, we'll see. Yeah,
she's gonna love that.
I think she will.
Yeah, definitely. So cool.
So cute. She's only Diddy. Oh, that's her Christmas sorted. I'll get her some like little kids baking bits as well. Perfect. Right. So I've got the pocket piece here. First of all, I'm going to do the top hem of the pocket piece. So if you have got a right side and a wrong side of this fabric, oh sorry, it's also to set, so this is, I think, is it 29 by 35 centimeters. So you want the long edge is going to be the top edge and the bottom edge, and the 2 shorter edges are 2 sides, if that makes sense. So this is, let me just double check the sizes because I can't remember. We've got 35 by 29. Yes, that's correct. Okay, so this is the 35 and these are the 29s down here, and this is the top edge here. So I'm going to fold it down by 1.5 centimeters and then another 3 centimeters, more or less. Doesn't need to be precise, just as long as it's even. There we go. Let's double check my one. Great. Okay, I'll pop another pin in and then press this. And then we can stitch that before we do the side edges. Ooh. So I'm going to stitch that again, just in from the inner side of that fold there. So if you'd like to, you can have the left-hand side of the press foot lined up with the inner edge of the fold, or you can stitch just in from the inner edge, whatever you prefer. I've got one lady who came to a workshop and made one of these years ago, an in-person workshop, probably, I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago. And she's a jewellery maker. So she learned to make one, and she's made quite a few of them since using the same pattern. And her children go to the same school as my children. And so she makes them and wears them to make her jewellery in her workshop every day. And so she almost wears it like as a pinafore dress, because she's always like, you know, rushing to pick the kids up from school and still always wearing it. They look so lovely. She had one on today, which is what reminded me. And she's got, on the one she was wearing today, she's added bias binding around the edges. So her logo is like grey and pink. So she's got one, the one she was wearing today is a grey apron, and she did, sorry, grey and yellow. And she did yellow bias binding around the edges. It looks really lovely. Literally like, I mean, obviously she wears trousers or leggings underneath. Otherwise, it would be a bit drafty and revealing. But from the front, it just looks like a pinafore. It's so nice. Okay, so that's the top edge of the pocket done. And then we need to fold in the sides and the bottom. So this is just a single fold on the sides and the bottom of 1.5 centimetres. So it's a little bit. There we go. So 1.5 centimetres on this side. Mine is much smaller than yours, so I kind of know what that looks like, and I can make sure it's very even very easily. But with yours, you'll more likely need to use the tape measure. So same on the other side, just one single 1.5 centimetre fold. And then same along the bottom as well. One, two, oops. Oh, I'll just double check everything's the right size in a mo. Well, you know. Great. Okay, so I'm going to press this now to make sure that all of these are pressed nicely. I'll just show you if you're, actually, I'll press it first. I really love sharing little hints and tips along the way. So I'll just press it, and then I'll show you something else that you might want to do. Oops. So if you'd like to mitre your corner, so sometimes you'll see a little bit poking out of the sides of that bottom edge of the hem. So to get round that, after you have pressed it, so it's much easier if you press it first. I'll press it now. And then once I'll open it up, then you see there's kind of like a cross. There's a cross fold of the cross here. If you fold the corner over on the diagonal so that that fold sits into that fold there, and then that fold continues that fold there, and then you can just make sure you push it, the fold all the way in, this little fold all the way into the big fold, and then fold it over like that. You can pop a pin in. And then same on this side, push it all the way in and then fold it over. And then it gives you a really nice, neat mitered corner, which is just another way of, you know, making it look all that little bit more professional. I'll just press it again and then I'll turn it over and show you again. Take those pins out. There we go. Can you see? So that's nice, nicely mitered. So it means that you won't have any bits poking out. Quite a nice little extra technique. I've done it on that one now, so I need to do it on the other one. So I'll just press it again to make sure that I get really crisp fold lines. And then open it out. Take the very corner and fold it in on the diagonal. And then this side seam here. So I'm folding it on the diagonals right on that point of that folded cross. And then I'll push that fold right into the side seam and push it down. And then push this one right in, which is a little bit trickier because the fold is going in the opposite direction to what you want it to, but it is possible. And then just press it again. There we go. Nice, neat pocket corners. How satisfying. So I'm not going to press these. Sorry, I'm not going to stitch these. I have just pressed them because I just want one line of stitching around the outside edge of my pocket. But if you would like to stitch them, you can stitch down, or you could tack or whatever you want to do around here and then place it on your apron. But I just think, you know, it's only a small piece of fabric. As long as it's nicely pressed, it should hold its form. Okay, let's move these pins onto the top of the fabric. Make sure you're holding holding your hem together still. Great. Okay. And then last step is just to put your apron, position exactly where you'd like your pocket to go on your apron. If it's for you, you might want to just pop it on first and just check where it kind of sits nicely for your hands to go into the pocket. Obviously I don't fit this one, so I can't do that, but you might want to. But then what we'll do is pin it down in position wherever you'd like it to go. I reckon about there. You make sure it's nice and central. So what you can do to help make sure that it's really central is fold your apron in half and either just kind of do a little like finger press to make sure that you've found the halfway line, or just pop a couple of pins in on that fold line so you know exactly where it is, and then open it back out again so we know that's the center line. And then if you fold your pocket in half as well and sit, just match up those two center lines, then you know that it's going to be perfectly centered. So I've just done a little finger press. You probably can't see it, but I can. where the center line is of the pocket, like that. And I'm just going to marry that up with the center line of my apron, and then I can take those pins out. We can just pop them all the way through the pocket and the apron. And so then once you've decided where you'd like it to go, I think it's quite nice to stitch. So obviously we're going to stitch down the two sides, along, so down one side along the bottom and up the other side. And then quite often I've done another line of stitching down the center of the pocket as well. And that just means you've got a couple of pockets to put things in rather than just one. But it's completely up to you. It depends what you're going to use your apron for. You know, you decide. So I'm just repositioning these pins so that they go through all of the layers of the pocket and the apron, like so. How are we doing for time? Oh, we're doing well, great. Okay, there we go. So I've put all of those pins are now going through everything. So I'm going to start here, so down, across and up, and then I'm also going to do a line of stitching down the middle as well. I might just mark that with my fabric pen, because it's always easier if it's going to be a line like that that's on show. It's always easier to follow a line rather than try and guess where you're going. This is a fabric marker that is erasable with water, so don't worry. It's not going to be in there forever. Okay, do those last couples of lines of stitching. Again, just make sure that your straps and everything are well out of the way. You're not accidentally stitching through some bit that you're not wanting to. And also because you'll have a lot of fabric because your apron's much bigger. So just make sure that everything is really nice and flat on the arm of your sewing machine. You haven't got anything folded or ruched up. You're not accidentally sewing through bits that you don't want to be sewing through. So it's very frustrating when that happens. We've all done it, believe me. So also just to say, I'm just stitching about ½ centimetre in from the outside edge of the pocket as well. When you get to the corner, you can just put your needle down, press it up and pivot it around. Back up the other side. There we go. And then I'll just do that one line of stitching down the middle of the pocket. And then, hey presto! How exciting. When you are sewing up the middle of the pocket, because you might have with hands going in and out here, it's super important to do plenty of reversing at the top of this so that it's a really nice and secure line of stitching. And also actually what I do is make this line of stitching in the middle extend just over the top of the pocket. So I'll do like 1 or 2 stitches just over the top, just to make it even more secure. I'll show you a close up in a moment. There we go. Right, let's just cut all those bits of thread off. Oh, it looks lovely. Oh, cutie. There, so can you see, actually you can see even on the back I did plenty of reversing on these 3 spots because they're high traffic areas are going to have to, you know, if you've got hands and things going in and out here, they just need to be extra secure. And so that one there, I extended it just so there's 1 stitch above the top, so it's less chance of this bit of fabric coming away from the main part of the apron. You could do that at the sides as well, actually. I haven't, but you definitely could. It's done. Hurrah! Well done. Well done, everybody. Is anybody else finished? I'm going to put you on gallery view so I can see. Yay! Caroline's got. Oh, hello.
Sorry, you'll be surprised to know I'm still matching up stripes.
What, with the pockets?
Yes.
Yeah. You could always just go horizontal with your stripes rather than vertical so that it looks like an intended.
I cut it to match, but that's probably a good idea for the future.
You could always kind of trim it once it's in position just to make sure it matches up properly.
I've done it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's tricky, isn't it? Because sometimes when you're making things, like for example, if you're making curtains, I think that woven stripes make life easier if they're vertical, because you know that you've definitely got a straight line with all that long piece of fabric. But yeah, they can be a help or a hindrance.
A bit of both with this, in truth. But
okay, so yeah, it is a bit of both. So Marguerite, the pocket top seam allowance, I turned it over the second time. Let me have a look. I can't remember. So 1.5 and then 3. 1.5 centimeters, then 3 centimeters. That's just so that I think it looks nicer to have quite a chunky top hem on your pocket rather than a really lean one. It just sits a bit more flat. It looks a bit nicer, I think. Oh, there we go. Any other questions?
Switzerland is all good.
Brilliant.
I just wanted to talk a bit because I'm not very used to talk English, you know. I'm more used to listen to it. But thank you very much, my dear.
That's my pleasure. Am I allowed to see your apron or not? Will you send it? Will you put it online?
I will put it, sure. I will put it on social media and I'll send it to you. Okay.
Yeah, make sure I'll put my that's my Instagram in case anyone wants it. But I'd love to see. Thank you. It was so nice. Thank you so much for joining me, Caroline. It was great.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Okay, so there's a couple of questions coming here. So Marguerite, could you recommend any place to order material? Where do I get material from? I just pick it up here and there. There is a lovely, for this type, do you mean for specifically this type of fabric? Like all these linens and things, like linens and denim and stuff for this? Yeah. Okay, let me think. So I've got my wholesaler place, but I can't tell you that because they won't take orders from people like who haven't got businesses. Move that across. I'll tell you what, let me put some recommendations on my email because I'll just double check. I'll double check. I've got a lot of this linen grey, and I've got a lot of this linen in navy, and I've got a lot of a lovely lightweight black on one side and grey on the other denim as well. So I'll put those on there in case anyone wants any. But I'll also, I'll make a note of it because my brain is a little bit like a sieve at the moment. But I'll include some other recommendations on my follow-up email with the recording for you. Okay. Anything else before I go?
Yeah, Kate, would you put the link or details of the little mini presser thing?
Oh yeah, sure.
The little the baby iron.
Yeah,
it's
lovely, isn't it?
lovely.
Honestly, it's so good. It really is. And it comes with this little cradle. Oh, I just love it. Oh, it was on special last week. I'll check if it's coming on special again because they've got loads of sales on at the moment.
Santa might need to know about that.
Yeah, it's the perfect stocking filler. Well, quite, yeah. No worries, that's on my list as well. What else did I say I was going to do? Okay. Dresses, sure. I'll keep putting on. I'm conscious that I don't want to do anything like mega complicated. We'll see. I'll have a think about it. Maybe I'll send out some emails and just ask you some questions to find out the kind of thing that you'd like to learn. But I mean, I love doing this. So the more the better, as far as I'm concerned. Hopefully you've enjoyed it too. Like I say, I would love to see pictures because it's funny like teaching you all and then not actually seeing the fruits of everybody's efforts. So I'd love to see if anyone wants to share anything. But if there's any more questions, please ask now. Otherwise, I will leave you to your evenings and then look out for an email from me in about half an hour or so. And I'll send out the recording and any other details I've promised. But thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you. Are you going to start doing the John Lewis ones again? Assuming we don't all get locked down again in the next 5 minutes.
Oh, I know. We'll see. I hope so. So what I've started with, because we've got teams in there at the moment doing loads of cricket workshops. Oh, look, I can see Apron. Oh, thank you, Kate. Oh gosh, it looks brilliant. I love it. It looks so good.
Thank you.
Oh, well done. Oh, it looks fantastic. It goes beautifully with your striped top underneath as well.
I know. I look a bit positively French.
Yeah, you do. Oh,
Absolutely. It looks so good.
So good. Oh, makes all the difference seeing one. Thank you. That's really kind.
I don't know how
Can't
to.
see the stitching though.
No.
No, but that's all right. No one's going to interrogate your stitching. It's fine. Oh, look. Caroline, hello, nice to see you. Oh, that's lovely.
I finally found out how that works. So sorry.
Oh, that's okay. It's fine. I completely understand.
But I'll show you later on mine.
Okay, that's fine. That's great.
I would do it, but I don't know how to do it either.
Don't worry, it's fine. I've seen Kate's and I'm delighted. So that makes all the difference. It's lovely. Thank you. What was I saying? I can't remember.
Oh, John Lewis.
Oh yeah, thank you. So we're doing cricket workshops there at the moment and they're going really well. So, and I have been doing a few. So I'm doing a few like Christmas wreath ones and things like that. I'm doing them in Kingston this Saturday, various other John Lewis's. And so it is all moving in that direction. If you're on my mailing list, you'll be the first to know about it. Hopefully it'll be soon. We'll see. We just do as we're told, really. But yeah, it was lovely doing this though. Thank you so much for joining me. And yeah, I'll drop you all an email later. So thanks guys, take care. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.